You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 18th day of September, 2017. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a chance to spend some quality time with the family. I saw you in church Sunday. Tip my hat. Good to see you, as always. Thanks for joining us today. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, a special welcome to you. We're so glad to have you with us. We are well into our second decade of this radio program about all things Emini and other stuff. So we're glad to have you as a part of the family today. Now, if you cannot see the chart I have up, it is the S&P 500 Emini Futures. There's a couple ways you can see the chart and access the chat box. Number one, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered all the way through the end of the month. You only have to register once per month, and that gives you one-click access to the show each and every day. You can also go to youtube.com/CFRN/live, where we stream live each and every day. You'll see the same chart, but you'll be in a different chat box. Okay? So that's the deal. Now, Friday, the unthinkable happened. Okay? Last week, this was our highest weekly trading zone. Okay? HWTZ, we'll call it. And one moment, please. Now, since we began publishing the zones in December of 2009, December 14th to be exact, the majority of the time, which is like, I don't know, 97, 98% of the time, will close below the highest zone or just above the lowest zone. Rarely do we close outside of the zones. And as we were cooking along Friday, we spent, these are 30-minute candles, we spent whatever time in this candle, and then an hour, and then 2 hours, and then 3 hours, and then 4 hours. And at about 3 o'clock, the market took a run, and at 4:30, very unusual for the final 30 minutes of the market on a Friday to do that. Notice there's not even a wick on top. So not only did we close out the week at a new all-time historic high, it's a high for the week, a high for history, and you would think that on the Sunday night Globex Open, after that showing, there would be a gap higher opening, but there was not. We opened slightly lower, but then immediately traded higher. We had a Concierge Trade Alert to be long 2501, ran up 3.5 points. Of course, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Price got back below 2501, and off it goes for another 5 points. So that's the story on the S&P. The other big story for today, we talked last week, we've talked a couple weeks now, I guess, about the Equifax hack and what you should do to try and protect yourself. We then talked about the FTC launching an investigation into Equifax. Now Equifax officials are reportedly being investigated by the Justice Department after selling stock before the company revealed a data breach that exposed the personal information of millions of Americans. Bloomberg's Tom Schoenberg and Anders Milan reported that the U.S. Justice Department is investigating whether top company officials violated insider trading laws when they sold Equifax shares before the company disclosed the hack. According to Bloomberg, the department is looking at sales by Equifax Chief Financial Officer John Gamble, President of U.S. Information Solutions Joseph Lochner, and President of Workforce Solutions Rodolfo Ploder. The three senior executives dumped almost $2 million worth of stock days after the company learned of the breach. An email statement from the credit monitoring agency said the executives had no knowledge of the breach beforehand. All of the executives still own thousands of shares of the company after the sales were completed. Bloomberg cited people familiar with the investigation who asked not to be named because it is confidential. Equifax was asked to comment on the DOJ investigation, and so far they have not. Equifax last week reported the massive data breach, saying hackers may have accessed the personal details, including names and social security numbers of more than 143 million consumers from mid-May to July. Equifax, which said it learned of the breach in late July, also said credit card numbers for about 209,000 people and certain documents for another 182,000 were also accessed. The disclosures were swiftly met with criticism because of the delay in alerting the public to the hack, as well as the problems with the website that Equifax set up to check and see whether your details were at risk. The hack is also being investigated, as we said last week, by the FTC and has prompted promises for inquiries in both the Senate and House of Representatives. Equifax stock was little changed this morning. Shares have tumbled nearly 35% since the news of the hack. Now, what's really interesting is back in March, the folks behind Apache servers, and this is what Equifax was running, the folks behind Apache servers found a vulnerability. And so everyone running an Apache server was notified and sent a patch the same day. Equifax received the patch in March and did not bother applying it until after the hack in May, 2 months later. It's since been discovered that many of the folks working in the Equifax office had usernames like admin and passwords like password. Some people had 2-digit or 2-letter passwords. It's really quite unbelievable, the lack of security in a place that holds such, I mean, this place can hold sway over whether you get a car loan or a house loan. Very, very powerful. And the information they have, certainly wanted by every digital thief on the planet. And yet, the simple patch they were sent in March, if they had applied it, would have prevented these hackers from just waltzing in and taking over the servers in May. So somebody's in a whole lot of trouble. And I'm frankly surprised to see the stock still trading at $92 a share. I don't know. I've already checked, and it says that yes, I was probably part of the hack, and you should check too. Go to Equifax.com and you'll find a link that will take you to the site where you can put in your name, the last 6 digits of your social security number, and it will tell you. Even if it says you weren't, you should probably get some kind of credit monitoring service in place, something going on. Credit Karma is pretty good, and it's free. So now Equifax has also been accused of using this breach of security to sell additional services to consumers to monitor their credit. What a slap in the face. Now, let's go to the numbers, and then we'll go to Michael. We'll start with the cash markets here in the U.S. One of the other big headlines today, and we may have time to talk about it or not, European Union is considering taxing giant tech companies based on revenue, not on profits. Well, you don't have to be a mathematician to figure out what that's going to do to consumers. So, if you're a consumer in the EU, stand by. All right, here's the numbers starting in the U.S. These are cash markets. The Dow is up 78 points. NASDAQ is up 28 points. That's almost half of 1%. S&P 500 is up 6, and the Russell 2000 is up 8, which is a little over half of 1%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 39 cents, trading 49.50 last. That is definitely over half of 1%. Gold continues its slide down another $13.60, a little over 1%, trading $13.1160. The market worked so hard to get up and over that 1300 hurdle, and to see it slip away, that's just a shame. In the Asian markets, green was the color of the day. The Nikkei closed up 102 points, a little over half of 1%. Shanghai was up 9 at the close, and the Hang Seng up 352 points. That's 1.25%. Last but not least, Europe, color of the day, green as well. FTSE up 37 points, a little over half of 1%. DAX up 40 points, and the CAC up 15. So Asia's green, Europe's green, and here at home, it's all green, except for the commodity basket where it's all red. So here we are sitting at all-time historic highs in the S&P. Last week we kept bumping our head up against that highest weekly trading zone. I think we started on Tuesday was the first day we hit it, September 12th. Yep. And then again on the 13th, and again on the 14th, and then on Friday the 15th we hit it, and this time we stuck, and we traded all those hours that I mentioned earlier, and then late in the day we started this run, and that's as strong of a Friday close as I have ever seen. So it would not have surprised me to see a substantially higher gap open, but it was modest. But we ran up 3.5 points above our alert, back below the trigger. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested, and now we've run up another 5, and just kind of trading sideways. This happened off of the Wall Street Open. This trigger here came in relatively early last night, about 8 o'clock. Where's the London Open? Here's the London Open. We actually sold off on the London Open, taking us down. Well, our low point and our high point came in the first 30 minutes of trading. Actually, the low of the session was right here, 24.98, 24.98.50. Low of the session 24.98.50, and the high of the session 25.06. So that give us a 6.5, 7-point range on the day. Not a huge deal, but again, when you're up against these all-time highs, buyers are hesitant to buy, sellers a little leery of selling. The buyers keep winning the race. At what point does it turn? September 23rd is right around the corner, and that's the day all the stars align, and biblical prophets say it's going to be the big day a lot of folks have been waiting for, and other biblical prophets say no, it's not. So I guess we'll find out. And today's the 18th, in 5 days. In 5 days. That means that will be next. This coming Saturday, if I'm doing my math correctly, markets will be closed. Let's see. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yep, Saturday's the 23rd, so the markets aren't open. So whatever happens, happens, and then if there's any fallout from whatever does happen, if anything happens, we'll see it next Sunday night on the Globex Open. With that, let's go over to Michael, get a recap of the live training room today. Michael, if you're ready.
I am ready. I am ready. Here we go. Alright, so everybody should be looking at my screen right now.
You popped up on a different monitor for me than you normally do.
That's odd.
I
don't have control over your monitors. Does everybody see my the website? That is what I'm showing right now. Our home page.
Okay, hang on just a second. Now that I open the chat box, okay, now I'm seeing it on my main screen as well, which is where I normally see it. Okay. So, thanks, Eugene.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Okay, all right, I'll let you have at it, and I'll be here when you're done.
Okay, here we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, the 18th day of September, 2017. First of all, if you have not taken a free trial with us, then just go to the home page at cfrn.net. The home page at cfrn.net. And right here on the home page, to take a free trial, this banner is going to drop down for you. It says sign up for the CFRN live training room. 100% free trial. User indicators, learn our strategy. Click here. When you click there, you're going to be brought to this page. Okay. Now, on this page, all you have to do is put in your email, put in your first name, and how you found us. Okay, that's all you need to do. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. We don't ask for any credit card or anything like that. You get to sit in our free trial for free without having to disclose anything other than your first name and your email and how you found us. Okay, we make it pretty simple for you. And I know there are people out there who are evil and who would want to go in there and try to disrupt things. But we don't have to deal with them, at least not right now. Okay, so that's that. Now the recap. Okay, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Okay. Today, 9/18, we had a red day today. We were down 32.50. We were up 6 on the euro, up 1 on crude. Now on the euro, we had, I'll go through it with you here in a few minutes, but the euro is what we traded the most on. Gold, we had 1 stop out to the tick pretty much, and then it went in the direction it should have. Crude, we just got one tick profit. All right, and we took a total of 6 opportunities this morning. Let's see, of the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 1 was break even, but we'll get into that in just a minute here. On the month now, gross profit 1,382.50. Now, let me see. Dell, are you in here? Dell. The gross profit, 1,382.50. That's over 11 days, averaging a gross of 125 a day. Now you see this right here? Right in here, Dell? That is the number of trades it took to get the goal for the day, if we got the goal for the day. All right, if we did not get the goal for the day, then it does not go into the total. So this negative number right here, minus 32.50, watch this number down here. Watch. I'll make that 0 and watch. 1382.50. This is the sum of all of these. Okay, see the sum of C 1628. Oops, to 1628. Hang on, I gotta fix that. This equals that to that. Oops. Oh, I just messed it up. Hang on. Well, 1382.50 is the sum. Now, this was minus 32.5. And something's wrong here because it's not calculating. See if I make that a 0. It still didn't calculate, so I gotta fix that. All right. Well, let me fix the spreadsheet. The loss is reflected on the net. This should be the total of all of this right here. this equals this to that. And we want the sum function. Sum of 1607 to 1624. I'll just type it in. Yeah, that's not right. That number right there is not right. Hang on. $1382.50. Let's just add it. Let's see. Now we got minus 32.50 plus 150 plus 60 plus 105 plus 100 plus 255 plus 32.5 plus 280 plus 137.5 plus 192.5. 1280. Okay. That's where it is. So this number, sum 16. C to Q. There's something I'm missing here. Oh, I know what it is. There's the sum of these over here. That's what it is. It's the sum of these numbers. Okay. And those should be right. Anyway, I'll have to fix this spreadsheet. Let me get back. Yeah, it's all trades for the day. This right here is the sum of all the trades of the day. Okay. If you look over here, it's the sum of all the trades of the day. Okay. And this is the sum of these right here. But something's messed up. I had to have entered something wrong in there somewhere, because that total is close, but not right. I'll get it fixed. Anyway, let's go over what we did today. Okay. On the gold, we had just the one stop out right here. Okay, and then it went up and did what it should have done. The green line turned up, got up into the cycle, it put in a higher swing. And we had just the one stop out there on the gold. It looks like there were some more opportunities here, but I missed them for whatever reason. A short there, and the cycle was going up too steep there, but a short there. Both were profitable trades, but I missed them. And during the break, right here, well, we didn't have anything. It's starting to set up, it broke dynamic support, and it's starting to set up a trade there. Okay, the euro. Now, we missed this first one right here on the euro, but that was pre-market, so we didn't really miss it. It was pre-market. We did get this one. We got +8 on that. Then we stopped out to the tick again, right here. Stopped out to the tick, and then it went up. And then right over here, so we got +8 there, -8 there, so we're back to 0. And then right here we got 6. Put us at +6. And we missed that one, which would have been a losing trade. We missed that one, which would have been a winning trade. And we had a break even right there. Now, during the break, let's see, during the break, there was a shorting opportunity right there. And it looks like another shorting opportunity there and there during the break. And that was it. Okay, so we ended with +6 on the euro. On crude, we missed this long right in here, which was a winning trade. We got one tick profit on this thing that dragged out forever. Then we missed this short here, which was a winning trade. This short here, which was a winning trade. This short here, which was a winning trade. Then it changed directions. This was during the break. There was a long right there. Now, the reason I wasn't doing any of these right here, guys, I didn't just miss them. I saw them coming, but they were all going into the low of the day. And I didn't want to go into the low of the day like that. So right over here, this is bugging me. The spreadsheet's bugging me right now. But we had a long right there that, this was all during the break. And right there, and right there. Okay. The Russell we didn't do a thing with today. There was just one long opportunity right there. And then the ES was around the zone pretty much all morning. You see, we had this weekly trading zone right here. And so we couldn't do anything on the short side with the Russell because it was going right into the zone. When it started out, it was below the zone, so we couldn't do anything on the long side. And then it started going down. But you can see how narrow this range is right here on that zone. All right. And that is that. So, you know what? Rather than go through the spreadsheet here again with you, I'm going to fix the spreadsheet. It'll be correct. I don't know what went wrong. I just copy and paste the same formula from month to month to month to month. But I will check it and make sure that everything is right. Okay. And if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the home page here at cfrn.net. And right up here at the top, this banner is going to drop down that says sign up for the free trial. User indicators, learn our strategy. Click here. When you click there, you'll be sent to confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click the confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. Okay, that's going to bring you to this page where you just got to put in your email, your first name, and how you found us, hit submit, and you'll be sent to confirmation link. Okay? All right. And with that, I will pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. And I will make sure the spreadsheet is accurate. Yeah, I try to account for everything in here. Okay? Be as clear as possible. The number of trades it took to get to the goal for the day, what we were at when we got the goal for the day, how many trades we took overall in a 2-hour time frame, commission, net profit with the $8 commission, net profit with a $5 commission, number of days in the month, average gross on the day. I try to be as transparent as possible with it. Okay.
So that answers the question that everything is included.
Yes. Everything is included.
Good days, bad days, red days, green
Good
days.
days, red days, green days, blue days, yellow days.
We recap it every day and have for going on 5 years. Exactly the same. And we can't come on the radio show and say one thing and do something else in the live trading room because it's, a lot of the same people. So that would be pretty ridiculous to.
Yes.
But thank you to that one email for voicing your concern because that gave us an opportunity to clarify it for you. So anytime you have a question, ask. Anybody. Whatever it is.
And the losses do get reflected. The losses are. Hang on. Let me show you. See, down here are the totals on the month. Okay, and this is these totals added up. Is what it is. Okay, at least that's what it's supposed to be. So let me just go make sure that that's what it is actually. Okay. Like right here, you see we have minus 100 on soybeans. That's where we stand on the month. We're down 8 ticks on soybeans. Minus 100, plus that, plus that, plus that, plus that. Okay. But there is something not right in here. And I will figure it out. Okay. And that's it, guys. With that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park.
Well, alrighty then. Do you see it now, Del? You got it? Okay. All right. Wednesday, guys. Wednesday, big day. Really big day. On Wednesday, we have at 2 o'clock Eastern, the FOMC economic projections, high impact. Also at 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, we have the FOMC statement, high impact. Also at 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, we have the Fed interest rate decision, high impact. The forecast is that it will be unchanged. Goldman Sachs says that we will get one more increase this year and 3 next year, and they pretty much run the show, so I'm going to guess that's what we'll get. And then at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, there will be an FOMC press conference, high impact. So in a 30-minute period of time, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 high impact Fed associated news events. So that might actually move the markets. It really might. So when that happens, we don't go into some elaborate plan as to how we're going to trade it based on what we think is going to happen. We actually stand down. We go flat. Basically everything. Because a Fed announcement can, well, at least back in the old days, not only did it move the S&P, it moved all markets. The last Fed announcement, if you 2 weeks later, if you went back and tried to spot the Fed day on an hourly chart because of the enormous candle, you couldn't even find it. It was a total non-event. This week, maybe something a little different. And they're going to start unwinding the balance sheet. No one's ever tried to unwind so much quantitative easing before. This is a first. So what's it going to do to the economy? Hold on to your hat, because we don't know. But it's coming. That's for sure. Were there any unanswered questions in the chat box, Mike?
Nope, I think we're all set in the chat box.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Then what we'll do...
And the spreadsheet is right. I just went through all the numbers again. I must have entered something in wrong when I was doing it individually.
But your basic formula and everything is okay.
Yes.
Okay, I see that John's here, so I'm going to open his mic. He might not have got my email earlier. John, are you there? John. Okay, the idea is he was going to jingle my phone when he's ready to go live, and so maybe he did get my email. And based on that. Okay, send him a little message, and he'll be good to go. Okay, Hurricane Maria is rapidly intensifying in the Caribbean and is likely to hit some of the same areas recently devastated by Hurricane Irma. As of 11 a.m. Eastern, the National Hurricane Center declared Maria a major hurricane defined as a storm that's Category 3 or above, sustained wind speeds of 120 miles per hour, pushed it to a Category 3. The hurricane is approaching the Leeward Islands with a track that threatens to bring its center quite close to St. Lucia, Martinique, and Dominica. The U.S. island of Puerto Rico appears to be directly in Maria's path, with the Virgin Islands also projected to be near the storm's eye. Air Force Hurricane Hunter flights report that considerable lightning is in the storm's center and that Maria is likely to become at least a powerful Category 4. It's still too soon to say whether Florida or other parts of the continental U.S. will be in the storm's path after it crosses the Caribbean. Now, just when you had forgotten about Hurricane Jose, Jose's back in the news. And Hurricane Jose is traveling up the east coast of the U.S. and could affect an area from North Carolina to New England, according to the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center. The NHC has issued a tropical storm warning for parts of New England, from Watch Hill, Rhode Island, to Hull, Massachusetts, including Block Island, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket as of 11 a.m. Eastern on Monday. Today, those areas can expect tropical storm conditions within the next 36 hours. Jose's center will most likely stay out at sea, but the NHC reported that parts of the U.S. were already feeling dangerous surf and rip currents because of the storm. Swells from Jose are also affecting the Bahamas, Bermuda, and the east coast of the U.S. Areas in the northeast under a tropical storm watch are from Fenwick Island, Delaware, to Sandy Hook, New Jersey, from East Rockaway Inlet, New York, to Watch Hill and Delaware Bay south. Even if Jose stays offshore as expected, parts of the coast and mid-Atlantic are expected to experience powerful gusts of wind, heavy rainfall with isolated flooding, and dangerous ocean conditions, including coastal flooding. I gotta say, this has been the most active hurricane season that I remember, but I think it's the biggest in history. Everybody's history, not just mine. President Trump appears to be on an island when it comes to his desire to fulfill one of his biggest campaign promises. Since 2015, Trump has advocated that the federal corporate tax rate be slashed to 15% from 35%. The president argued in various campaign and post-election speeches that a 15% rate would make the U.S. more competitive globally, produce more jobs, and kickstart economic growth. We're looking at a 15% rate, Trump said at a meeting on taxes last Wednesday, and we want a 15% rate because that would bring us low, not by any means the lowest, but it would bring us to a level where China and other countries are, and we will be able to compete with anybody. Nobody will be able to touch us. So yes, we would like to see 15%. While Trump has been insistent on the 15% rate, nearly every other Republican involved in the effort to overhaul the U.S. tax system has said the number is unworkable. Here's a quick rundown of what some of the Big Six tax writers said on the issue. Mnuchin, the president, has made it clear the campaign, ideally he'd like to get it to 15%. I don't know if we'll be able to achieve that given the budget issues, but we're going to get this down to a very competitive level. You know, why not just reduce the whole tax code to something you can put on a postcard? Or better yet, a Post-it note. Gary Cohn said, I would like to get the rate as low as possible so that businesses want to create jobs. Speaker Paul Ryan, I think our goal is to be at or below the industrial world average, and that's 22.5%. So his goal is to get into the mid-low 20s. And Senate Finance Chair Orrin Hatch said the president wants 15%. I don't think we can go that low, but I think there's a possibility it can go as low as 20. Even a survey of tax professionals conducted by the consulting firm Deloitte's tax research arm shows many in the industry are skeptical that Trump can meet his target. Just 5.3% of more than 3,100 people surveyed expect the tax bill to get the corporate rate down to 15%. Man, if they would just get out of this guy's way and let him do all of the things. Oh, and I laughed. I don't know. Somebody on some TV show last night, or some news show, said, I've got an idea. This should make everybody happy. We'll have the dreamers build the wall, and then they can stay. So, I know you probably had to be there. North Korea continues to act unstable. They've flown a second missile over Japan. Just flew it right over it. The U.S., South Korea, and Japan conducted joint military exercises over and near the Korean Peninsula on today, and a show of force to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. 6 American jets, 2 bombers, and 4 fighters flew alongside 4 South Korean and 4 Japanese fighter jets in the mission. U.S. and South Korean jets also flew near the military demarcation line, an artificial border constructed in 1953 to separate the 2 Koreas. The joint exercise comes as North Korea continues to demonstrate its own military capabilities, and it coincides with the first day of the United Nations General Assembly, where North Korea is expected to dominate the discussion. So they sent a rocket over Japan twice now with the threat, we're just showing you that we can sink you. They're talking about the island of Japan, which if you've ever looked at a map, there's a lot of people there, but Japan itself is not a large country. And so we send out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 planes. That's our response. And we don't fly over North Korea, we fly really close to it. 2 B-1B bombers from the U.S. From South Korea, 5 F-15K fighters, 4 of them. From the USA, 5 35B fighters, and 4, 8, I guess we flew 10 airplanes close to North Korea. Now, they're calling that a show of force. Did they even notice? They flew about 20 miles from the border. Oh, they also dropped inert bombs onto a mock target range near the Pilsung firing range in Gangwon-do, a mountainous region near the North Korean border. Okay, all right. Well, that's a little more. That's got a little more oomph to it. One of the U.S.'s 2 B-1B bombers dropped an MK-84 bomb onto the range. The 2 B-1Bs flew from the Andersen Air Force Base in Guam, at which Kim Jong has threatened to launch missiles back in early August. The 4 F-35s flew from the Marine Corps Air Station in southern Japan. And South Korea, they dropped the MK-82 bombs over the same area. 6 bombs were dropped altogether, according to the Korea Herald. Perilous times, my friend. If it comes down to it, Britain could also join the U.S. in its fight against North Korea, though it's not legally obligated to do so. Frederick in the chat box says the Emmy Awards last night, which is the biggest night for television awards, and for the first 15 minutes of the opening was nothing but bashing of President Trump. Really? I did not see that, but I am not surprised, because Hollywood, the TV and movie industry, and mainstream/liberal media have done nothing but try to tear him apart ever since he took office. It's shameful. It's unpatriotic. It's un-American. All the blunders that Obama made, all of the things that he did, all of the things he's guilty of, not the least of which is hiring Hillary Clinton to be Secretary of State, he never got this kind of bad press. Even Fox News didn't whoop on him the way everybody else. It's really a sad day for America, you know. It's not how it should be. Let me see what happened here. Okay, turning to the other headlines of note. Facebook has finally agreed to hand over the ads which were linked to a Russian troll farm. Robert Mueller, the special counsel investigating Russian interference in the U.S. election, obtained a warrant for the Russian-linked ads that ran on Facebook during the campaign. Okay, so now that you have them, what Facebook gave Mueller and his team copies of ads and related information it discovered on its site linked to a Russian troll farm, as well as detailed information about the accounts.
Grows, it's harder to update your network.
Oh, stop. I gotta figure a way to stop these ads. I know my browser's capable of doing it. You guys don't hear them, but people who listen after the fact do. The disclosure, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, may give Mueller's office a fuller picture of who was behind the ad buys and how the ads may have influenced voter sentiment during the 2016 election. I mean, at this point, what does it matter? Trump was elected. Hillary's written her book. Everybody's read it. And now, I don't know why she wrote the book, because anyone who's read the book that might have voted for her certainly wouldn't vote for her now. Senator Mark Warner, top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, told CNN last week that Facebook had not turned over the ads to Congress. Warner also called Facebook's review the tip of the iceberg. See, they're spinning all these wheels, making all this noise, spending all this taxpayer money. To what end? Is it going to change anything? No, it's not. Stir people up, give the late night stand-up guys, more to talk about. That's about it. Republican lawmaker Dana Rohrabacher tried to make a deal with the White House on behalf of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Assange, currently in hiding in the UK, would theoretically offer detailed evidence that Russia had not meddled in the U.S. election in exchange for something like a pardon. John, I see you pop back up on the screen over here. I don't know if you're ready to come on or not. I guess not. Okay. He's in, he's out. I think he's having problems with that setup he's got. First major task facing Uber's new chief executive is to hire a new chief financial officer, plus several senior legal hires. Uber has lacked a CFO for more than 2 years, and reports suggest the firm was waiting until it was closer to going public. The Finnish maker of Angry Birds, have you ever played Angry Birds? you'll be infatuated for anywhere from a couple hours to a day, and then you'll never pick it up again. Anyway, Rovio, who brought us Angry Birds, has set a maximum valuation of $1.1 billion for its upcoming public offering. Rovio's had a tough few years financially, and that valuation is lower than expected. Come on, it's $1 billion. Facebook, Google, and Twitter all allowed advertisers to target users with racist and anti-Semitic terms, according to numerous media reports. What? Facebook allowed marketers to target Jew haters. Twitter let people target users who use the N-word, which, as we all know, that most people who use the N-word are people who, well, God, how do I say this? Who feel they have a right to say it because that's their ethnicity. I don't know how to be any more politically correct than that. At least in my life and in my experience, we don't say it. I mean, I don't say it. I wasn't raised to ever say that. But if you turn on any kind of TV show, I don't know, like Growing Up Hip Hop, I mean, that's where you hear it the most. But anyway, by the way, that show is just horrible. And Google allowed the phrase, "Black people ruin everything?" Seriously? All three firms subsequently updated their categories. These were actual categories on their ad platform. That is unbelievable. Well, at least they have cleaned up their act, so to speak. Facebook's going to open a fourth artificial intelligence research center and has chosen Montreal, Canada as the location. The firm praised the country's startup culture and favorable government policies, which means a huge tax break, I assume. I reported on this last night on our Facebook page, Daily Crypto Info. File sharing site The Pirate Bay is testing a Bitcoin miner on its site as a new way to generate revenue instead of ads. Users spotted that a cryptocurrency miner appeared on the Pirate Bay site using their CPU resources to mine the digital currency Monero. And if you use Pirate Bay, supposedly when you're not looking, there are people using your computer, your computing power, your resources to mine. Google's Chrome is going to crack down on autoplay video ads, the very thing I was just talking about when that ad came on, and will only play them if the user has shown interest in the clip or if they don't play with sound. There will also be the option to mute entire sites. Fair enough. Workplace chat service Slack has been valued at $5.1 billion after closing a $5.1. This is I don't know if you know what Slack is. Remember when AOL first came on the scene and it had the little instant messenger feature? You could chat with your buddies and have little chat rooms. Then Yahoo did the same thing, Yahoo Messenger. Slack's not a whole lot different, except it's designed for the workplace. Has been valued at $5.1 billion after closing a $250 million funding round led by SoftBank's Vision Fund. Slack said the money was for operational flexibility rather than any particular use. Think about this. SoftBank was able to get them $250 million. It's basically walking around money. Or operational flexibility rather than any particular use. Normally, venture capitalists want to know exactly what you're going to use the money for. They want to see the plan, the forecast, everything. They want to know, hey, what are you going to do with my money? I've never operational flexibility. That's good. I have to remember that. New York City has spoken up in the multi-city fight to be Amazon's new headquarters. City Deputy Mayor Alicia Glenn said people wanted to work in New York City, not a suburban office park. Okay. Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Hello there. How are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Well, I had a bit of trouble logging on today. For some reason,
Okay.
there was something glitch that the headphones didn't engage, but I figured out how to avoid that in the future. I got a lot of stuff piled up on the machine over the weekend. It might have got a bit overloaded, you know.
It can happen.
Yeah. Probably need to reboot. Just that thing about you were talking about that Slack, that's pretty incredible. I remember when that thing just kicked off in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that much difference from Yahoo Messenger, which I know you've used for many years. And, I mean, you know, it looks different, and it's for the workplace, but it's still, you know, an instant messenger service. That's all it is.
Right. And, but... you know, the trick is somebody figured out that, you know, to make it sort of like business friendly, sort of like a communications platform, not unlike that team viewer thing. You know, but there's a few of them around. But it's kind of like LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn was sort of like the Google of the. There were a number of predecessors to LinkedIn, and then this guy came up with the thing that, you know, basically the Google of this particular space,
right?
And with unbelievable results. You know, it's become it's like the branding. I remember I might have told this story a long time ago. I haven't told it recently, but you know, when I lived in Florida for a while, and there was I got a cold call one night, back in probably 95, somewhere like that, I think it was. And no, it was, let's see, sorry, no, 80, it was in the 80s. 86, 87, sometime around then. And it was a particular week, you know, when all the video machines were out, you know, the video tapes were all the rage. And
you're talking about the VHS and Betamax?
Yeah, and you know, you used to pick them up. You know, everybody was in the video game, selling videos. It was sort of the emerging video market. And you know, even at the gas station, there'd be videos for sale and stuff.
Right.
And so, you know, and that was the week that Barron's actually published the front cover was sort of every man and his dog was in the video biz, right? And I got this call from a guy who was pitching Blockbuster Video when it was literally in a one-store operation right there in Florida, just around the corner, actually. It was in Pompano. And you know, I sort of said I'll pass, and I made a big mistake, maybe one of the bigger investment mistakes of my lifetime, you know. And most of my mistakes have been not taking advantage of great things, not necessarily the other way, you know, losing badly on something, although we've had a few of those too. Everybody does. But this was one where it was a lost opportunity, because if I had put that 10 grand into Blockbuster right then at the time, and one thing I didn't do was I didn't research who the CEO was. If I'd known it was Wayne Huizinga, who had a track record of having turned waste management into an empire in the early days, probably would have been a good idea to go along. That 10,000 would have become $387,000 by the time Blockbuster got taken over, right?
Well, they eventually all shut down.
Yeah, I know, but they got it still went to a peak, and that was the point. I didn't make the same mistake on that Canadian, what was it, BlackBerry, the original BlackBerry, if you remember that story. There was we actually got along that thing in the teens originally, and it ran up to the 80s. And they had just like Microsoft in the early days, and Dell for that matter. They had a couple of heart attack type events. Ran up to the 80s. It dropped to 60, which was quite a big drop, and then it sort of spent a lot of time in the 60s to 80s. And then it used to be called RIM, Research in Motion. Remember?
Yep, I remember.
And all of a sudden, it was a Friday afternoon or Friday, and the stock gapped up from 80 to like about 105, and we were already long the stock from, and that night, never forget this, on the Fast Money show on CNBC, all the panelists were saying, dump it, short it, it's not going anywhere, because they were so used to the heart attack, the things going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I foresaw the BlackBerry that was the first smartphone, and it was starting to gain traction, and and I sensed that I think they'd only just got 1 million subscribers or something, and I said, listen, there's just tremendous upside on this thing. And we actually put that afternoon, that night, that weekend, I was so disgusted with what I heard on Fast Money. Because why was I disgusted? Because when something happens that never happened before, you have to pay attention, and it usually means it's going a lot further. And when a stock gapped up, what was a pretty big deal back in those days, gapped up $4 billion in value overnight, and went from 20 to 100, from 80 to 105. That was a very significant development, not unlike NVIDIA, which I'll get onto in a minute. But we actually wrote a report, and we basically put a $550 price target on that stock that weekend. And we sort of said, look, it's going to go to 120. It might pull back to 100, just like, remember when NVIDIA went up to 120? We said it might pull back to 100, which it did a few times before it really took off. And so then RIM went to like 100. We had 160 target, 180, 200, 250, 300, 400, 450, and so on. And, I mean, just to show you how fast asleep they are on Wall Street, Citigroup, much to our delight and flattery, came out and upgraded the stock at $250. So, it took all the way for the stock to go to $250 before Citigroup initiated coverage on it, which is just incredible. And, just so anyway, we ended up selling that thing right at the high. I think it got to 457. And we shorted it right up at the highs, went short, and as you know, it went all the way down dramatically into the 50s or so, and then it rallied again, but it never, after that, it sort of died. And of course, Apple became the next big thing. But the same thing's going on really with NVIDIA. This is a stock that we recommended at $26 a share. Back in 2016 in February, I think it was in February 2016, during that big hit that the market took, and noticed it was starting to come off the 25 level, 26. Within a few days later, it was in the 30s, and then it was in the 40s and 50s, and it ran up to all the way to 120 really before we actually put a sell out on it. And then it came down to 103. It went back up to 120. Came down again to the 103 level, I believe, and then back up. And then it took a bit of a tumble down to the 90s, mid-90s. And it wasn't doing anything for a while, but it was consolidating right under 100, which is always a good idea to be long when that happens, or have buy stops above. Because today the semiconductors are 92.5, and obviously that's related to NVIDIA. But anyway, the next thing you know, NVIDIA gaps up to 140. And by the, I think we made a lot of these calls on the show. If you remember, Dwayne, we called 120 when we called the 103 bottom right here on the show live. Yep. And that day it opened at 114. We said absolutely buy this, buy the heck out of it, because that was a huge gap. And it ran up to about 160, 159, I think. Then we shorted it, had a bit of a pullback down to the 140s, but it never really broke those 140s by much. And it's hitting 100, just hit 190 today, after gapping up again, because on Friday somebody, forget the name of the people now, but they just upgraded the stock to 250. So it's a very big deal, and it makes so much sense to be in momentum stocks, because they just leave everything else for dead. This is where the action is. That's why we I've said a long time ago, Nvidia is our number one favorite stock, and it's certainly delivered unbelievably well so far. And there's been a few scares. There's these guys came out and shorted it. Remember, the market had a big slump. And just a short while ago, actually, it's just come off the highs, and you got to be a little bit careful, because you never know when these things are going to turn. But Ubiquity Networks, which I've actually used their products, they have microwave dishes. Somebody on CNBC came out and said they're a fraud or something. I don't know how a company like Ubiquity Networks would be a fraud, but anyhow, take a look at the stock. It's UBNT. It took a big hit a short while ago, and or it's been falling since the beginning of September, and it spooked the market. I think that's one of the reasons why the Nasdaq's actually started to go down. Because it can take just something like that to, cause some of these fund managers to start selling. And I guess that's what they're doing a little bit here on the NASDAQ right now. So, yeah, always have to be very careful around midday to 1 o'clock time, on one of these days when the market gaps up a lot, because it usually has a pullback during the lunch hour, and it's either going to go higher after lunch or it's going to go lower. So you have to keep these things in mind. But a scare like that, just some sort of a small thing like Ubiquity could turn out, not necessarily derail the market, but it could certainly take the shine off what is otherwise a pretty incredible day, where we are making multiple new highs, or we were a short while ago making multiple new highs in the markets. But we decided to sell just as soon as we heard this news, just out of a matter of caution, because we want to see which way the wind is going to blow this afternoon before we decide to get back in. So we basically, would be selling any new lows, any new PM lows today, or any new AM lows that would be threatened, if you like. And even Nvidia itself, which has been incredible, could turn just out of nowhere. Doesn't mean to say the stock's through going up, but it right now looks pretty bullish. It's sort of consolidating around 189, and it looks like it's going to go higher. But you have to be careful with these, especially the second. We had a kind of a run up on Friday that went higher, but usually the second or third one tends to run into trouble.
Well, these cards are really in demand with all these, mining rigs. We talked last week about Japan investing $10 billion, but they're creating their own cards, and I don't know what chip they're going to run. Perhaps they're going to use that money to create their own chip.
Well, this AMD is really the king, right? Right now in terms of economics, the Threadripper is the go-to chip. I think it's 16 core, 32 threads, which is just about the most powerful chip on the planet.
What's it called again?
And because it's the Threadripper.
I hadn't heard of that one. What do those sell for? What do those sell for retail?
Well, the Ryzen, which is a sort of a competitor to Intel, Intel's best is about half the price of Intel. So I think the Threadripper is closer to $1,000, somewhere like that. But it's definitely a very powerful chip. So few things over the weekend.
Speaking of the cryptocurrencies, one of the headlines that really caught my eye this morning. China's backpedaling their whole thing now. But anyway, there's a huge supermarket chain in South Africa, and they are doing a trial, a test. They're going to accept Bitcoins. You go in and buy groceries and pay Bitcoins in a place like South Africa. But Africa has been ahead of the U.S. In one regards for many, many years, and that is the poor people, the unbanked people, people who don't have enough for a minimum deposit, or they don't have birth certificates or proper identification. They buy a cell phone for $8. Now, this is I'm going back to 2003. You can buy a cell phone for $8, a flip phone, and you buy one of those cards from a little roadside shack, and you load that money onto that little flip phone, and you could then go and pay your electric bill or pay your water bill, or you could buy groceries with it. That was way back in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, as smartphones, paying with your smartphone still has not become mainstream in America. For some reason, people just aren't comfortable with it. But in Africa, it was a necessity. It just fit like a hand in a glove. And it's a company out of Kenya. I wrote an article for the Motley Fool. Actually got article of the day. And I'll have to pull it up. I can't. M-Pesa, I think. The letter M, P-E-S-A, M-Pesa. I think that's the name of the Kenyan company that people all over Africa use with those old flip phones to pay their bills and to buy stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's incredible.
And it's the same with India. The Indians are doing the same thing. It's what we were talking about the other day. Who'd have thought that the Indians, of all people, would be, the country where most people can't live without the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It's staggering.
Did you watch the Emmys last night?
I didn't really get time.
Frederick in the chat box commented that they spent the entire first 15 minutes just totally bashing Trump, which doesn't surprise me at all.
It's absolutely pathetic, and there's only one reason.
It's unpatriotic. There was a time when people have been put in jail for that.
I know, and as for the Hillary Clinton to come out and say that it's a clear and present danger to the people of the United States. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous, and that is treasonous. And that definitely deserves jail time.
Yeah, I think that book did her more damage than it did good.
Yeah, I mean, look, they just give them enough rope, they're going to hang themselves, because the real approval rating is happening every day right before your eyes. That's why the stock market is up. It's up because Wall Street believes in Trump and believes in what he's doing. He's got the agenda, and he's going to get it done. I mean, he's going to get it done. Underestimating Trump is a big mistake. Everybody's they've been doing it all along, and I'm pretty confident they're going to fix this Korea thing before too long, and I think that'll be a major turning point when that happens.
I wasn't overwhelmed by that show of force that they did. They flew 8 planes and dropped some inert bombs 20 miles from the border.
Wait, are the Koreans?
The U.S. And Korea together. Yeah.
Oh, right. That. Yeah.
I mean, he flew a missile over Japan twice, and he said, "I'm just showing you that I can sink you." And Japan does have a lot of people, but it's a pretty small island, and everybody that just thought he was a raving madman, and a dictator that couldn't get it up, so to speak, because his rockets kept failing to launch. But I think he's shown now that whether he's crazy or not, Maybe he's crazy like a fox, and I think he can
Yeah,
do.
no. Did you see that CNN thing last Friday? Came out the secret state. It's very revealing because I mean, this guy has not only brainwashed the entire people, 25 million people, but because he's been, there's sort of like world history, and then there's North Korean history. That it's kind of like this wasabi thing in Saudi Arabia, that if you get them young enough, you kind of brainwash them with this hatred of the West, and it's the same thing with North Korea. They've been absolutely indoctrinated with this hatred of Americans, and there's nothing, there's no Facebook, Twitter, or anything over there. It's all, you're really denying these people a life that everybody else deserves, and it's just terrible.
But yet they have world-class hackers.
Maybe. They're pretty resourceful people, the Koreans. You wouldn't underestimate them. I mean, South Korea is a powerhouse, and North Korea is actually becoming a powerhouse in spite of it all. What they've accomplished in transforming the skyline of Pyongyang is pretty remarkable, given the lack of resources that they have had. Now, we don't know whether they got a big handout from Iran, or, when they got the money, they probably did. That boosted their business, but the countries, it's probably about halfway down the list now. Between the richest and the poorest country in the world. So and this guy's winning a lot of points, this dictator, because he's doing things all the time. He's doing things that are almost unbelievable. So he has to be taken pretty seriously. But I would put it to you this way. It's kind of like Osama bin Laden. They had the chance to take him out, 98, and because they didn't, look at what happened. Look how many hundreds of thousands of people have been killed around the world because they didn't do that back then. Same with Yasser Arafat 30 years ago. And it's the same with this guy. They got to take him out, because if they don't, it's going to lead to it's going to lead to a 9/11 to the power of 10 or 100, and then we're going to get the memo. But somebody has to really figure this out and deal with it, because it's the same mentality as Saddam Hussein spending a dozen years creating an insurgency that really caused a lot of havoc when the U.S. decided to go in the second time and take this guy out for real. They should have done it the first time around. And that's the biggest military blunder of the 20th century. And it's the George Bush the first feat. I mean, he has a lot of blood on his hands because he didn't do what he should have done the first time around. You can't let these guys in there fester with hatred and build up enemies against the U.S. We've paid an incredibly heavy price for his glory and his 80% approval rating, after the Gulf War that ended up crashing and he didn't even get reelected. I mean, that's for what? Why should it wasn't the 100-hour ground war which he wanted to stop, because they did it in 100 hours. What the heck? If it took a few more weeks to finish the job properly, that was more important, not somebody's 5 minutes of glory. That's the truth of it. And I'll tell you something else. All this stuff about how the Democrats have sort of brainwashed the black people in the United States, African American community, into that the Democrats are for them. I mean, all this is unraveling because the truth, the Democrats can't go around knocking down statues anymore. That's not going to hide the truth. The truth of the matter is the Democrats were the slave masters.
Well, they were. And the movie Hillary's America played that out better than any any. Have you seen that movie, Hillary's America?
No, I haven't. And by the way, speaking of clear and present danger, wasn't there about 114 people who are no longer around because of Hillary or Bill?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and we did a body count for a while on the radio show, and each day we would cover about 3 more bodies. People who knew them, worked with them, were somehow associated or in business with them. And stuff like a person would be found in a coffee shop, all the doors were locked, they were shot in the forehead with one gun, in the back with another gun, and the coroner ruled it a suicide. I mean, this happened again and again and again and again.
Yeah, it sounds like Seth Rich getting shot in the back.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. Yeah, just terrible.
And they got away with it. And she's prancing around writing a book. She's just...
Yeah, and I know. Listen, they should have thrown the book at her. I'm surprised that Judge Janine didn't say that on Friday. You know that. I mean, this is a prosecutable case. You know, multiple times over. And
I thought Trump would have her arrested as soon as he took office.
Well, you know, look, it's up to the Justice Department should be pursuing it. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't, but they should be. Because why should everybody else go to jail and they get a free pass? You know, it's just the same thing. You know, this guy, Mark Stein on Fox made a very interesting kind of point that probably 99.9% of the population hadn't kind of realized, if you like, that before Trump came on the scene, you know, Jeb Bush was the big, remember he had about 100 million or 200 million that he'd raised, and he was like the anointed one on the Republican side. And then you had Hillary, the anointed one on the Democrat side. So you had the wife of a former president on the Democrat side, and you had the brother and son of 2 former presidents on the Republican side. It's kind of like a dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's not good for America.
And we've heard so much about this Clinton Foundation and, you know, how wonderful they are and what high ratings they have. But in Houston, in Florida, in Georgia, when all this stuff hit the fan here recently, there was not one Clinton Foundation truck anywhere in sight helping people, handing out supplies, doing anything for anybody.
Yeah.
That's a pretty conspicuous absence from, quote unquote, one of the largest and best charitable organizations in the world. So that thing's a criminal enterprise. That's what it is.
Absolutely. I look at all this stuff. I mean, the visit where they've been getting these huge donations from governments overseas. I mean, it's a fantastic scam, you know, in terms of what it achieved. Mm-hmm. But you know, I think there's this thing with this A1 guy and the Washington Schultz. That's going to blow up. I mean, the truth is coming out. You know, just the same as look, literally days before this business about Rice finally admitting to unmasking, you know, basically spying on people, Trump's people in the Trump Tower, right? Effectively, that's what they were doing. Just days before that, I heard Anderson Cooper and this other guy, Fareed Zakaria, and all these fellows saying, oh, there's no evidence, there's absolutely no evidence to support Trump's claim of surveillance of Trump Tower. Well, that's been blown out of the water. Blown away now because it's you know, Rice has admitted to it, and how much more has she done? It's like everybody's forgotten about the convicted felon who visited the White House 387 times, you know, in the last four years, you know, or the 12 to 16 years. What the heck was a convicted felon going to meet with Obama every day and instigating violence at all the Trump rallies? And because of that, Trump got kind of pasted with this, you know, with this violence thing, which is, you know, nothing could be further from the truth. It's an absolute disgrace with the way they pile up on this guy.
Yeah.
And then, did you hear about Amazon with the 1-star ratings?
No,
The one-star reviews. Oh, this is just the height of deception. You know, sickening deception, deplorable deception. You know, and it's just like the Washington Post, the way they go about the business. They, you know, when the book first came out, a whole lot of people were giving it 1 star, right? They were very critical of it. And Amazon went in and deleted all these low ratings. I mean, can you believe it?
To my Hillary's book?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, the people, there's some sort of a video of them actually deleting it in real time, just seeing these 1-star ratings being taken off. I mean, that is just, that's fraud. That's a fraud.
What, has Amazon answered to it?
I don't know. I just heard, you know, I came out of the weekend. We're, you know, we got a bit of a weird thing going on today. The the gold stocks, which we're actually long, or we've been going long this morning on Newmont in particular, and Royal Gold, are going up today. They're actually turning higher. And the gold and silver are down quite a bit.
Yeah,
since Friday. But, you know, I got a feeling there's a snapback coming just from the way these gold stocks are running. I'm going to say this. Look, when the turn comes, and I can't tell you when it's going to be, but when the turn comes, the upside on the gold and silver could be runaway. And it could even happen as soon as Wednesday with the Fed, you know. But when it comes, it's going to be a runaway move because the debt, we just went up by 318 billion in one day to north of 20 trillion. And maybe they're manipulating the gold down because they don't want it running away on that news. But at some point, that may become a factor.
You know,
and you could see
this Fed announcement Wednesday, they've done something. It's the first time I've seen it done this way. On my economic calendar, the Fed announcement Wednesday, they've broken it up at 2 o'clock Eastern. We get the FOMC economic projections, high impact event. And also at 2 o'clock, we get the FOMC statement, high impact event. Also at 2 o'clock, we get the Fed interest rate decision, high impact event. And then at 4:30, FOMC press conference. So I've never seen it. I've seen it broken out in two, interest rate decision and press conference. But this statement and economic projections, that's something, you know, maybe the guys with the economic calendar just wanted to, you know, fill up the page. But it doesn't say on the press conference if, let me see, does it say if she's going to field questions or not? No, it doesn't. So I don't know if it'll just be a prepared statement or if she'll actually take questions. But, you know, Wednesday could be volatile. The last Fed announcement, if you went back 2 weeks later and looked at the chart on an hourly chart, it was just like a blip. You wouldn't even know it was a Fed day. Remember back when, you know, Greenspan, the early days of Bernanke, you know, Fed announcement days, for an hour, the markets would get incredibly volatile, huge swings, 30, 40, 50 points, and now it's just not the same. But we're heading back in that direction, I believe, I think, because...
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, Karen, the press conference is always at 2:30. And the announcement is always at 2. It's just those two other events that they list on the calendar. I've never seen those listed before.
It could be a wild day because one of the things you have to be careful of is when the markets rally into a Fed meeting, and we've got to go through tomorrow still, but when they rally into a Fed meeting, usually... well, not always, but the market can sell off sometimes sells off when the markets are too high. And the Fed may say the markets are too strong or they're too overvalued or something. You never know. Incidentally, remember we talked about Bastille Day back in July the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I called it the strongest day in market history, in the history of the entire world. There's never been a stronger day than Bastille Day. Why did I say that? Because there are about a dozen indices making new all-time highs, I think including the transports back then.
Your volume just got lower.
Sorry. Is that better?
It's like maybe you moved away from the mic a little bit, or...
No, okay, I'll try that. How's that?
Yeah,
better?
yeah, that sounds a little better, yeah.
So and there's also a day when there was a lot of international indices making new all-time highs. And the point being that what I was saying was there was more to come, there's more upside. And last week we put out we said it on the show, the Dow may run to 23,000 and it could go there very quickly. Could be possibly the fastest run from 22 to 23, could be the fastest 1,000 points in history. Because what's going on today is a very strong day, and it's sort of a little bit like Bastille Day in the sense that we're once again making new highs on multiple indices. Not all of them, but enough of them to be very, very strong, and potentially very, very strong. By the way, we put out a buy on the crude at $50 this morning on the October crude, and it's starting to move up. And
now, we rolled forward to the X contract as of today.
Yeah. And the natural gas, which we're long from below 3,000, is absolutely on fire today. I think the fact that gas is going up so dramatically is a kind of a leading indicator of where oil is going. And by the way, the oil stocks are going up well today too. The financials are totally on fire today. We put out an extra buy on the banks on Friday, and all of these issues are, soaring towards their recent highs or making new highs.
Well, the Fed's plan to unroll the this balance sheet, this quantitative easing, this money they created out of thin air, they've got to kind of make it disappear. And article I read today said the banks would benefit the most from that. So that may be a reason that you've seen that.
Because look at the bonds. The bonds are probably in their renewed downtrend here right now, and may go down a lot actually as the economy gets stronger. So I think that they're probably headed back towards the 150 area. And look, after the jobs number that came out, which was a bit of a downside surprise, if the jobs number is any way better for August, wait a minute, August is September, the end of this month, that could be very, very positive for the market, especially if it's a sharp upward adjustment. And it would probably tank the bond market quite a bit as well. So this particular move that's going on here today in the banks is a really big deal because you've got JP Morgan up in the low 90s, and generally speaking, and you got Wells Fargo having just broken above the 50s. You got American Express in the high 80s. So all of these stocks are capable of going up through $100 in the next few months or so. And if they report better than expected earnings, remember that why is the Dow going up today? Why is the Dow literally, it's only, it's 650 points now from 23,000. How quickly could it close that? Could close it real quick, because the dollar, the U.S. dollar, having gone down as much as it has, probably means that if the Dow stocks are getting 2/3 to 3/4 of their earnings from overseas, that means their cost of production, relatively speaking, is lower, being based here in the weaker dollar, U.S., and their revenues are going to be substantially higher coming from overseas. So there could be some upside surprises in the Dow towards the end of the month. So listen, on that note, I better run, but thanks for the invite. And
all right, John. Always good to hear from you. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, have a good day. This is a monthly chart, guys, of the ES.
All right. How are you?
See how far we can stretch it back to. Looks like that might be about it. Takes us all the way back to March 10th. Okay. I did that for a reason. I'll show you. Now, this is a monthly chart, which is quite a bit different than charts that we typically look at. In the live training room, we use a range chart, a 4-tick range, okay? Not a 4-tick chart. That would be too fast to trade. But a range chart, it simply means that every candle is exactly the same height. You can make every candle 4 ticks tall, which in the S&P is exactly 1 point. Or you could make every candle 6 ticks tall, or every candle 10 ticks tall, whatever suits your fancy. And you can do it as easily as that. Every candle 10 ticks tall. This is what I wanted to point out. When the CFMA1, the backbone of our indicator set, is blue and climbing, and the cycle is blue and climbing, there's a very high probability you're going to see higher prices. Okay? And even when you get these little flashes of red cautioning you, you're still above the 50-yard line. Okay, now go back to that monthly chart. Oh, I guess it didn't like that. Let's try daily first. We got to work our way up to it. That's odd. We'll switch it, that'll switch it back. Sometimes weird things like that will just do the trick. Looks like it kind of did the trick here. Yep, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I think March 10th is about as far as we're going to go back. But, you know, that's over 7 years. But notice that the cycle, you know, has been above the 50-yard line the whole time, even through these little minor pullbacks. You know, this was probably the most severe pullback from August 15th through, well, the pullback ended in January of 16. Okay, so August of 2015 through January of 2016. But keep in mind, this was an up month, October. November is kind of treading water. But you still got the CFMA1 red and falling. Still got the cycle red and falling. And so when this month closes below, and you sell the first of the month here. That's reading a chart, okay? Now, that month opened at 2037, and it put in a low at 1928. So that's over 100 points. Okay, but we didn't close on the low of the month. Okay, by the time the end of the month rolled around, we had pulled way back up to here and left that tail behind, which was setting the stage for bullishness. And we did move up a little bit, but we're still red and falling. Okay, still red and falling. And then this month, March of 16, we had nothing. April, a doji, a monthly doji. May. June, we finally pulled back, touched the MA1. We're blue and climbing on, well, actually we're not blue and climbing until the next candle on both of them. Okay. And this month opened at 2099. It didn't travel too far. Well, I'll take that back. Opened at 2099 and ran up to 2177. Yeah, 80 points. And then this brings us to where we are now. Okay. So, what does it all mean, Mr. Wizard? Well, if we're going to look at the last leg of this seemingly never-ending bullish rally, this is just the last leg of the journey. From this low to this high, we're sitting up here at, what's the high of this candle for the month? 2506. Okay. Now think about this, 2506. Just a 24% retracement would bring us back to 2344. A 38% retracement would bring us back to 2244. That's equivalent to, let's just use round numbers, 2,500. 2,500, and we'll even go 2,300. We'll split the difference between the 24 and the 38. 2,300 to 2,500. It's 200 S&P points. That's 2,000 Dow points. That would be, no doubt, a healthy correction. If we pull back to the 62, which, you can see the confluence here. Everyone would assure you that indeed the sky was falling and the world had come to an end, because a 400 point drop in the S&P would be a 4,000 point drop in the Dow, and that would be, although it's a 62% retracement of the last leg up, not the entire move, just the last leg up. I mean, the headlines would tell you there's blood in the streets, when probably there could be nothing healthier for the market. Of course, nobody wants to see the market go down. Everybody wants to see the market go up. Well, if you were around the last time the market was at all-time historic highs, you know what carnage looks like. I'm not predicting carnage. Just know that truly healthy markets go leg and a retracement, then a leg and a retracement, and if you go in here, you can find legs and retracements, but it doesn't look right to me. Okay, what does that mean? That means that's just one guy's opinion. Daily chart. So if we go daily, we can see, you know, leg and a retracement. That was a pretty deep retracement. A leg and a retracement. A leg and a retracement. A leg and a retracement. Do you see how the CFMA1 highlights the leg and the red is a retracement? The leg and the retracement. The leg and the retracement and the leg. Now, when you're trading in larger time frames like this, of course you got to have the account size to be able to handle, you know, significant drawdowns. But you can also, you know, you don't have to buy this extended price out here. You can wait for this, and as this candle starts to build, you know, you don't have to get long here. You can wait for the leg and the retracement, and then when you are confident that the next leg is underway, okay, let's say you got in this at 24.75, 24.75, we're up at 2,500, and that's over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading days. And no indication of exiting the trade at this point. If you were trading it based on the larger time frame. So I just kind of want to put everything in perspective, because we look at smaller time frames. We look at the range chart in the training room. On the show here, we typically look at the 30-minute chart. Just wanted to give you some perspective. And I guess we could look at some perspective. Well, GCLV is still alive today, but we've rolled forward to GCLX. I know what I did wrong. There we go. Let's look at Crude on a monthly. This is the continuous contract at GCL, so it's not tied to any one particular month. Now this takes us back to 2014, where we saw that huge sell-off. We got a little bit of a rally, and then here, this would be a month you would consider entering on based on what I just explained to you. And if you there's a green candle followed by a doji, you could wait for this month to close back above the MA1 and take your exit. Would you still have some pretty nice profits? Yeah, 95, 50, call it 60, 50. $30,000, is that right? I think so, yeah, per contract. So you got to be able to weather the drawdowns. You got to have incredible patience. You know, I think everybody would like to be a swing trader. Everybody would like to set it and forget it. And if you have the account size and if you have the methodology, you can do that. Most people just starting out don't have that luxury. Okay? But something to look forward to as you build your trading business and you do have those opportunities. Okay? So, real quick, we'll run through. If you didn't get your screenshot before, give you one more chance if you want to take a screenshot of last night's alerts. They got out 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Try to get them out early on Sunday nights. Consider the yellow arrow always represents, the yellow up arrow represents the Globex Open Sunday night. Consider buying 2501, ran up 3.5 points. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So we get below the trigger and then we run up another 5. Okay? And again, we did the unthinkable. We closed the week above the highest weekly trading zone. It's a rare occurrence, but it does happen. Now, after we spent all these hours consolidating inside of that highest zone on Friday, I got to tell you, I was pretty confident that we were going to close at or below 96. But I got a bit of a surprise as we headed in at the close. On the Dow last night, we said to consider buying 222.45 when the email went out. 61 points. Important prices, important areas. Comes back, gets right below the trigger, and runs for 69 points. Soybeans, not so spectacular. No short trigger, and on the long side, 1.5. But your entry would be very tricky. It would be down here. And so, for those who've been through the training, it would really just be a walk away. And if you just took it because you could, it would probably end up being a stop out. The market did make 1.5 points available, but getting that would be, you know, if you were trading it on the smaller time frame range chart, you might have got something out of it. But on the larger time frames that we use for the concierge, no. Bonds, I don't think we ever triggered. Let me look again. Oh, we just triggered. Just triggered just now. $154.07. Again, bonds are not something I recommend for those who are just starting out. I don't really recommend them for anybody, unless you have a special talent, a special knack. You know something I don't. There's just other markets that I think are more tradable. But hey, it's up to you. So we've hit 154.04 so far, so that's 3 ticks. 3 ticks pays you $90 and change. 4 ticks pays you $125 per contract. We just started a new 30-minute candle. Okay. Moving on from there. Okay, last night's alerts were on the V contract. The stuff that went out today was on the X contract. And tonight, when the alerts go out, it will be the X contract. Okay? Last night's Globex Open. The email said consider buying $49.85. We ran up to $50.33, so it's roughly $480 per contract available. Then we said to consider selling $49.60. The first move down was $150 per contract. Now on this pullback, it gets a little confusing here because on the pullback we actually, there was the buy and the sell level were so close together. You might have got triggered in here, okay, but your stop would have to be way down here, and so that's a little richer than what we typically suggest. Same thing coming down, you know, just a wee bit over. See, the high here is 91. 90 would be exactly $300 per contract. And what we suggest is on the Concierge Trade Alerts, if you have to risk more than $300 per contract, go look for a different trade. This one, you would have needed to risk about, probably $350. Okay? The payout was $400. Look what it did. These are last week's zones, but it went from zone to zone, almost back to the zone. And it may end up going to the zone. But again, these are last week's zones, and they're based on the V contract. Tonight, when the alerts go out, it will be for the X contract. Okay. On the NQ. Say to consider buying 6007. First move up was 5 3/4 points at $20 per point. Got back below the trigger. Now again, it could be some false starts here, which might have resulted in a snap out. This move here would have required risk all the way down to here, at least 92. 92, it would be 8 and 7 is 15 times 20, exactly $300 per contract. So that was doable. And then these 8.5, that was very doable. On the Russell, consider buying 1435. First move up, $110 per contract. Back below the trigger. Next run, $450 per contract. And here your risk was, well, if you put your risk down at 31, that's that's a $200 risk. $450. That's what the market made available. And I think the last one is gold. Gold, we said to consider selling 1320. The first move down is $140 per contract. Back above the trigger. And $1,100 per contract available. Hate to see gold sell off like that, but it did make for a nice trade. Indeed it did. Okay, so that covers all of the markets, which leads us to our good word for the day. Stop beating yourself up. You ever do that? James 3:2 says, we all stumble in many ways. When you sin, God's Spirit will convict you in your need to repent and change your ways. That's really what repent means. Say I'm sorry, mean it, and then go in the opposite direction. But until you get your glorified body in heaven, you're always going to deal with sin. The Apostle James wrote, we all stumble in many ways, but falling down isn't what makes you a failure, it's staying down. Get back up, dust yourself off, receive God's grace, learn from the experience, and move on. The Bible says in Romans 8:1, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. God is not condemning you, so stop condemning yourself. A few decades ago, people used to wear a little badge with the letters GNFWMY. It meant, God's not finished with me yet. And He's not finished with you either, or me, thank goodness. Sometimes we're guilty of doing the wrong thing with the right motive. For example, in 1957, Ford Motors described the new Edsel as the car of the decade. Try telling that to all those drivers whose doors wouldn't close, whose horns stuck, and whose transmissions failed. And remember the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy, where the architect designed a 3-meter deep foundation for a 54-meter tall building? How'd you like to have that on your CV? The fact is, the most talented people often make the biggest mistakes. Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes 7:20, "There's not a righteous man on earth who does what is right and never sins." And Paul added in Philippians 3:12, "I am not perfect, but Christ has taken hold of me. So I keep on running and struggling to take hold of the prize." So, whatever it is, if you've repented, asked forgiveness, turned and headed the other way, stop beating yourself up. Again, James wrote, "We all stumble in many ways. But falling down isn't what makes you a failure. It's staying down. Get back up, dust yourself off, receive God's grace, learn from the experience, and move on. There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." Now, is that license and liberty to sin? Oh no, quite the opposite. But He is a God not only of second chances, but if you have a broken and contrite spirit, and if you mean business, He hears your cry. And He is just and quick to forgive. And once He forgives you, the last thing He wants to see is for you to beat yourself up. He wants to see you rise up and return to whatever it is that He's called you to do. That's where your focus should be. Where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. That's going to do it, guys, for this day, the 18th day of September 2017. If you have not taken the trial in our live training room, you get 5 days, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. You can start any day, you still get 5 days. Watch us trade while you ask questions. All the questions you want, and you'll get an answer that's not snarky. Nobody's going to talk down to you. Just transparently answer your question. Okay? It's a learning experience. If you need a platform, we got a demo platform for you. If you have Ninja, our indicators will run on Ninja. They also run on the DT Pro platform. There's several others. And if you don't have a compatible platform, we can set you up with a platform that you can use so that you can test out the indicators. There's no sense taking the trial if you're not going to put the indicators up on your screen so that you can actually use them and see them at work. You can trade alongside Michael in the simulator during the class, and then the rest of the day you have a chance to put the strategy to work, put the indicators to work, make notes so that the next day you can ask better questions. And each day that you're in class, you should ask better and better questions. And then at the end of the 5 days, you are able to make a well-informed decision whether our trading method is right for you. I know that many have tried for a very long time to find consistent profitability, chasing this indicator and that oscillator and this guru, and there is no magic bullet. There is no one answer. There is no secret to the market. The closest thing there is to a secret, and it's no secret because we talk about it all the time, is that this is a business based on probabilities. No man, thing, machine can predict with 100% accuracy what the market is going to do next. When you accept that, well, okay, my setup is here. I know this setup gives me a definable edge in the market. When this, and this is in place, if I enter here, the odds are in my favor that there will be a successful outcome to the trade. But the best trader, with the co-located server and the staff scurrying around, big screens all over the wall, he knows, driving into work or being driven into work, that he's going to be profitable at best 7 out of 10 trades, whether he's trading futures or stocks or options or whatever. 7 out of 10. Why? Why can't he do 8, 9, or there's just too many variables in the market. There's too many participants. And any one of those participants, it's like the butterfly effect. Any one of those participants can make a decision to go long or go short something that is opposing to your trade, and other people see that movement and they follow, and what looked like the most beautiful long trade in the world to you suddenly gets stopped out. But the good news is we always use a hard stop. It's called aggressive risk management, and you never have to wake up worrying, is today the day I blow up my business? Is today the day I blow up my account? No. Our 24/20 blueprint is designed to take you from 1 to 20 contracts over a period of 24 months. So some say that's a slow boat to China. Well, it may be, but the good news is there really is a China, and it is just over the horizon. So you're building a business. No business is built overnight. Any kind of business, from a retail business to a construction business, you start slow, you build steadily, and you arrive if you do things right. And the beautiful part of rules-based trading is you're never at a loss for what to do. No more guesswork. Should I be long here? We have a clearly defined set of rules that tell you when you should be long, when you should be short. And not only you should be long, but at exactly what price, to the tick. You know to the tick what price you should be long or short, to the tick where your stop goes, and to the tick where your target is. As you become more familiar with the strategy and start adding contracts, you can take that hard target off and trail your stop. In the beginning, though, it's simply to teach you how to reach your daily goal on a consistent basis. Once you do that, you're on your way. Remember, we believe that solving the market equation is done through more contracts, not through more points. If your goal today was to take 20 points out of the S&P, well, good luck with that, because we had about a 7 or 8 point range on the day. But was there an opportunity to get 2 points? Yeah. Several times over. In different directions. So 2 points with 20 contracts makes you the same money as 20 points with one contract. Now, which is more likely to happen, 2 points or 20 points? The answer's pretty simple. Now, where many people do make their mistake is once they understand that math, they go, oh, all right, well then I'm just going to trade a lot of contracts. Well, wait a minute. You haven't yet learned to be consistently profitable in the simulator. Once you pass that test, then you go live with one contract. Then you increase your account balance by $2,000. Then you go on a calendar-based method. You'll know exactly when you're going to add your next contract, the exact day, as long as you remain consistently profitable, as long as you continue to add that one contract on time. But to do that, you have to maintain your $100 per contract per day, and you have 10 trades per day to do it, plus any carryover trades from previous days. Today, if you reach your daily goal in 5 trades, you got 5 trades that carry over to tomorrow. So tomorrow you got 15 to make your daily goal. And they just keep rolling forward and rolling forward. And you have to overcome the fear of using the available ammunition that you have. That's where some people do struggle. You know, in Sim, they don't have a problem taking 5, 6 trades to reach the daily goal. So they put their 10 days together in a row. They go live. But after, 2 stop outs, they freeze up and can't find it within themselves to use the ammunition that they have available. See, it's based on reaching your daily goal in 10 trades or less. That means you have to use as much ammunition as you have available each and every day to reach that goal. And if you struggle with that, you have to go back to Sim until you gain the confidence to do it. That's why it's a 90-day mentoring program. It's the simplest trade setup I think you'll find anywhere on the internet. But it's not going to happen overnight. No business is built overnight. So if you want to take the trial, go to apply.cfrn.net. Name, email address, all we need. apply.cfrn.net. Oh, and it asks, how'd you hear about us? If you heard this on the radio show, just put in radio show. If you need a second chance, you'll fill the thing out and you'll think you're signed up for the second chance, but you really aren't. You need to send an email to support@cfrn.net and say, I'd really like to take a second chance at the trial. The first time I got sick, I had to go to the dentist, whatever happened, just be honest. We know life happens. And then we'll make notes and we'll gladly give you your second chance if that's what you want and need. And as long as you commit to showing up every day, downloading the indicators, putting them to work, because our goal is to teach you how to trade. We can't make you a trader, but we can teach you how to trade. What you have to bring, we give you the knowledge and the tools. You have to bring the discipline and the patience, and we'll help you learn how to think in probabilities. Now, if you struggle with discipline and patience, we'll work with you on those as well. Trading's not easy, but if you follow the formula, if you trust the process, it can be simple. Look at that S&P coming off. Okay, we've taken out the low of the day, put in an all-new, all-time historic high, taken out the low of the day session. Now, right there, the low of this candle right here, that's the low of the session. The low 24.98.50. And we just took it out. 24.98. No, we haven't. I'm sorry. What's the low of this candle? We've touched it. We've touched the low of the week, which was put in the first 30 minutes last night. Now, these are last week's zones on the chart. Partners get the new zones Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern, and then I share them with the whole community, usually on Thursday. I would watch this area. It's sort of a major player again this week. All right. Okay, like I said, that's going to do it for this Tuesday, 18th day of September, 2017. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.